Hello again, everybody. I hope you're all doing well and feeling well. Let me say one thing right off the bat. No matter where you are, scattered across this great country of ours, you are still Kent State. We are Kent State, and we will get through this together. All right, today I thought I would use this video to talk a little bit about Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, our example of high fantasy, and go over some of the questions, maybe not each and every one of them, but some of the questions that were on the take-home quiz that now most of you have turned in. If you still haven't turned that in, make sure you do that. You're losing 30 points. Um, if there's any kind of issue or problem in getting me assignments, let me know. But again, I think most of you turned that in, and I responded back. It was worth 30 points. It was a 30-point quiz, and if you did it and you did it well, you got the 30 points. Another announcement before I go on, be looking at your Blackboard. By the end of the week, I will have the specific reading assignment and writing assignment for, well, what will be due the Tuesday after spring break. I was going to say the Tuesday we come back from spring break, but we're not going anywhere. We're staying exactly where we are, most likely. But there will be a reading assignment and a writing assignment due that week, dealing with Bridge to Terabithia, our first example of realistic fiction. One of the advantages of realistic fiction is I really don't have a long list of criteria to judge realistic fiction on. It's just basically whether or not you think a work is realistic based on your personal experiences. And so we'll talk about that as we get into realistic fiction. But again, there will be reading from the packet that will deal with that genre, and some articles that deal with Bridge of Terabithia, and then later on Wonder, which will come later on after that. So be looking for that. I don't think I'm going to put together a video explaining that assignment, so it'll just be on Blackboard, and if you have any questions about it, um, just email me and I can clarify anything that you have questions about. One of the good things, if there's any good thing to be had here, is that spring break week next week will give us all a little bit of time to catch our breath and take stock of where we are. I've mentioned this before. I'm looking into other kinds of programs that might be easier and more interactive than these YouTube clips. A lot of my friends have helped me with this. I'm looking very seriously at Zoom. So I finally entered the 21st century and got a new camera and microphone for my tabletop computer here. I didn't have one, so of course you can't do anything like Zoom without that. So over this next week, I'm going to be getting that all together, working on that, and seeing if maybe when we come back a week from now, or a little over a week from now, we'll be able to come up with maybe a different approach. Everybody's kind of learning on the fly here, including me, especially me. So bear with us. I think this has worked out pretty well. I've gotten some emails back saying, thanks, Shank, for keeping us in the loop and doing these. So for now, this is what we'll do. Also, don't forget, again, if you're in the fantasy presentation group, those are due tomorrow, and Group D author profiles are due tomorrow by email. All right, I think that's all I had to say by way of introduction. Charlie is nowhere to be seen. He's in one of his other favorite spots looking out the window in the kitchen. So I don't know that he'll make a cameo. His cameo was very popular for our last video, but maybe he'll show up. I think that's all I wanted to say. Oh, I might even try Facebook Live sometime, and if I do that, I'll let you know when I'm going to be on. Apparently, that's kind of fun to do too. I don't know that we'd ever do any official class business on Facebook Live because not everybody's on Facebook, or maybe not everybody would be able to take part in it at the time that I'm doing it. But we need contact. I mean, we need some interaction, and I really can't tell you really how much I kind of look forward to doing these videos, because in some small way, we're having some kind of connection, even though it's sort of one way. So anyway, those are the intro points I wanted to make. And if you have any questions or any issues or any problems along the line, both toward the end of this week or during exam week, or of course when we come back, so to speak, to do the last 5 weeks of class, please let me know. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to make the experience easier for you. So that's that. All right. I may even break this video up into 2 smaller videos because I've already taken 5 minutes to do some intro. And these YouTube clips, if they run long, sometimes take forever to upload. So be aware of that too. I may stop this at some point and then start a new clip, but it'll all be one same video. It'll all be the same lecture. All right, as far as the wardrobe quiz questions, like I said, I'm not going to go over necessarily all of these, but I wanted to touch on some of the more important things that we would have talked about in class as a discussion after you had taken the quiz. So I want to do that. The setting of the story, and this helps answer one of the questions later on. How does Lewis set his fantasy world first in a realistic world before he changes into fantasy? And of course, the setting of the story is England, Great Britain in wartime, and the main catalyst for the Pevensey children to be sent to this country home further inland by their parents is because they lived in London, and if you know anything about your history in World War II, for a number of years, even before the United States got involved in World War II, Germany conducted nightly bombing raids on London to try to bomb them into submission. And to their great credit, they never folded, they never surrendered. But it's a very realistic scenario that parents of children who lived in London, if they had the means and the opportunity to send their children more into the country where it might be safer, it's a very realistic scenario. I'm pretty sure that that might very well have happened. So that's one way he sets the fantasy world first in a real world, and he's got history on his side too. I mean, I think that's a very realistic scenario that could very much have played out somewhere at some time during this period. Number 2, why is Edmund so ornery? This is one of my favorite questions because to me, I don't know if you agree or not, you don't have to, but you have to if you want to pass. Edmund to me is the most interesting character of all of them because he is so ornery and kind of the black sheep of the family. And, Peter, is the magnificent, he's kind of a boring character. Lucy is kind of cute. Lucy, the just. Susan, at least in this book, they could have called her Susan the nondescript as far as I'm concerned. I mean, she's just sort of there. Susan the gentle, they had to call her something. But Edmund is the most interesting because, he's the rough edge. He's the doubter too. To talk about another aspect of how do you make fantasy realistic or believable? Well, you have a doubter. You have somebody who says, oh, that couldn't possibly happen. And he's that guy. Why is he so ornery? Most of you noted, the sibling rivalry between he and Peter, which I think a lot of kids reading the book can relate to. Like I said, I think, Edmund's kind of an interesting character. So, when he gets involved with the White Witch, part of the reasons why he gets involved is to stick it to his family, to stick it to his siblings who kind of overlook him or make fun of him, or in Peter's case, just kind of overlook him. So we kind of get a little subtle theme. Why does somebody go along with evil or what maybe he suspects is an evil person? And Edmund has his motives, for doing that. He's kind of a bully. He's kind of obnoxious. He's kind of irritating. But, and again, for another theme of the story later on, he redeems himself in a very powerful scene where he breaks the witch's wand, which really takes away most of her power, and is very seriously injured as a result of that. So redemption is a powerful theme in the story. He's kind of the bad kid who made good at the end. So, like I said, I think he's by far the most interesting character of all of them, at least in book one. If you've ever read the rest of the series, each of the children have their chance to shine in other books. But in this just first or this one that we're reading, he's the most interesting, I think. I think that's probably a good place to stop this video, part one of this lecture at 10 minutes or so. So we'll stop now, and then you can pick it up in just a second.